This is Lady Anne, owner of Capt Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support Tessa. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend Tessa enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it positive.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. Tessa is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands, on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KBNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element Tessa has to offer. On our website, tessacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, November 25th, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. I'm a licensed private investigator, citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. To super chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box. All donations go back into the mission. Dad, I know you're watching, so that means you. If you're catching this on the replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind the scenes and extended footage on new project developments and investigations. Just click the big blue button that says join. Our guest for tonight, season 3, episode 37, our final episode of the season, is Captain Randy Cramer. Since the United States Marine Corps Special Section Command considers the weakening of the United States economy and the divisive political infighting as direct threats to national security, they have asked Captain Cramer to step forward and have encouraged him to offer his consulting services. He was asked to assist his countrymen and the world in making adjustments for better future technologies and restoring legal and executive authority over all covert programs or risk further weakening of the U.S. economic social structure. Captain Cramer has been asked to speak more openly to the public and civic bodies on exopolitics. Having spent a 30-year tour on duty with the Earth Defense Force, his observations on tactical analysis of this subject stems from more than 2 decades of objective and rational experiences. According to Captain Cramer, his discipline and mental powers began early by meditating daily at age 10. The practice prepared him for the shock and realization that something had altered his memories and that his symptoms of PTSD were from terrors he never expected. Many years of deep introspective work and working with many wonderful, caring, and gifted healers in various fields eventually led to a full recovery of all his memories, which he validated after pursuing his personal files from his chain of command. But unfortunately, to no avail, those files have yet to been recovered. After discussions with a brigadier general, it was suggested to go forward without that paperwork. Today, Captain Cramer brings his 30 years of knowledge and experience from a USAP, which is Unacknowledged Special Access Program, that no one has ever heard of until recently. Captain Cramer believes we should all share in the fruits of our tax dollars, in the labors of employees on the government's dollars, which is our dollar. We should all have a future we can look forward to, not just a pretty one for some, but all the people of this living and conscious planet. So, Randy, put on your tinfoil hat. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, I can hear 2 of you. I can hear you live, and then about 15 seconds after you start, you've said something, the exact same audio starts repeating after that. And then I'm hearing myself now about 15 seconds after I start talking. So I'm getting an echo that's making it impossible for me to hear anything right now.
That's not good. Is it still going on right now? I don't know how to help you with that. That's got to be on your end. Do you have another window open in the background? Maybe YouTube playing in the background.
Hold on.
I bet you do.
You might have me there. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
All right. Let's use your superpowers and go back in time and wipe everybody's mind so I can do that epic intro again.
That was totally what I had.
That was totally it.
That was it. I had the window open and now I don't. I'm sorry. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Randy Cramer, like Kramer from Seinfeld tonight. Oh.
Sorry.
Okay, so like every show,
it's American Thanksgiving. I'm full of turkey and tryptophan, so everyone's just.
You're not thinking straight. Yes, happy Thanksgiving to you and our fellow Americans. So, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start the show with the icebreaker from Tim the Demon Guy Morrison. So what he does is he gives me a question that I have not seen until now. So I'm going to just bring him in here. All right, so you can find Tim the Demon Guy Morrison on Facebook as well as Twitter. And his icebreaker for tonight is, what cartoon world do you wish you could live in for a week? Good question.
That's actually a really good question. I'd have to say Rick and Morty as long as I had a portal gun.
Somehow I had a feeling you were going to say something like that.
The most like real life. Actually, it's the most like real life if I'm going to go there. But I would have to say if I could have a portal gun, then I'd be stoked.
I'd be that. I'm just trying to think. I haven't seen much of Rick and Morty.
Oh,
I do like it. I am dabbling. Well, it's not unavailable on. I gotta subscribe to another streaming service to subscribe to another streaming service in order to see it. So I just haven't acquired it yet. But I know we've seen a couple episodes. It's great. So I will go with that because I can't think of anything else.
Let's just say
maybe Scooby-Doo. Maybe Scooby-Doo.
Say that I know through other sources of people who have spoke with people who make the show. They're fans of my work. So
good. Yeah, maybe they put a character of you in one season. That'd be good. Hey,
please, Dan Harmon, make me a special voice character on your show. Oh my God, that would be awesome.
That'd be good. Cool. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Tim, the Demon Guy Morrison. Okay, so I mean,
good question.
That was a great question. So
could have gone anywhere with that. I could have gone anywhere with that one, and I decided to go with that one.
So where do we want to go from here? So we could start. You know what? Let's start with you before I met you. So you had all this experience. So it would have been 2019. 18-ish, 19-ish.
Something like that.
Something like that. So still 20, 25-ish, 26-ish years into this. So what is so special about the special section of the Marine Corps? What's the difference between the real Marine Corps and this one, I guess, in a sense? The one we know about.
Careful now, real Marine Corps. The difference is that United States Marine Corps Special Section is the covert military space program arm of the Marine Corps. So they're very specially compartmentalized in a number of ways and work more closely with Naval Space Command than they probably do with regular members of the Marine Corps. However, obviously draws and recruits personnel from the standard operating personnel in the Corps sometimes. So there's a relationship there that is intertwined, but compartmentalization makes it also very, very, very separate. So
okay. So how would that tie in with what's going on in American ufology today? What is your opinion on all the events that have, I guess, unfolded recently?
Well, I've been saying since December of 2019 that we're on a process that's essentially a 5-stage process that begins with the pandemic phase, civil disruption phase, World War III phase, alien invasion phase, resolution reconstruction phase. And we are right about to hit number 3 any minute now. Chinese government issued a statement to its population last week to stockpile for war. I have a student who's in Taiwan, actually, who's given some very interesting information on just how scary and terrified the Taiwanese people that the Chinese are going to invade any minute. And that will start the World War III phase. And then we'll be right on the heels of the alien invasion phase. So I think everything is mental, psychological, emotional preparation for what will be a sudden, shocking event in which the entire planet will be brought into disclosure through a shocking invasion event.
So interesting enough. So like that's when we met. Like your lecture, you gave a speech that wasn't on the docket, so you weren't supposed to, or not saying you weren't supposed to, it just wasn't in the itinerary. And there was a lot of flack from MUFON about that, but I enjoyed it.
That's because they asked me what I was going to talk about, and I was like, I don't know. And they're like, okay. And then when I get there, I'm like, I'm going to talk about this. I'm like, okay. And nothing anybody could do about it. So I did that on purpose. I knew that if I said ahead of time, people would get itchy about it. So yeah.
So just to give you a background, like at this time, I'm about to leave MUFON. I'm trying to figure all this other stuff out. I'm helping MUFON. Actually, no, I just crashed that. I wasn't supposed to be there. I'm trying to go around and reestablish my credibility at that point. Met you, and then we kind of had a conversation or two after that. But then I remember particularly that you had said that within 6 to 18 months, there was going to be some sort of a, fake alien invasion. And then within 6 to 18 months, the pandemic happened. Mm-hmm. So it was odd for me not knowing anything else other than that piece of information, but remembering that lecture, remembering you saying that, and then having these events. And I've been talking about you in many other episodes about that event. And so now here we are here. And so how did you know that it was going to happen? Let's get into that.
So super easy. Barely an inconvenience. I had intel from our intelligence agents, our intelligence officers that told me that month. They were saying, here's where we're at. This is the plan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's not because I had amazing psionic superpowers. Our intelligence officers told me that was what the plan was, with about another half a dozen sort of subplot things that would come along the way. I will just say this: so far they've been right 8 out of 8 times. So we're only waiting for like 2 more to come to pass or not come to pass to see whether they're batting a full 1,000 or not. But yeah, so far they've been dead on the money every single dang time.
So when you say they, who are they, and how do they get this message before they send it to you to
Oh,
convey
we're
it
talking
as you
about
did?
United States Marine Corps Special Section intelligence agents,
Yeah.
intelligence officers who
Mhm.
gather, collate, process, disseminate that information to officers in the field. So when they decide that they need to disseminate some information to me, then they disseminate the information to me. So that was basically, people were starting to ask me about the epidemic / pandemic at that point, which was just an epidemic still, and asking me what was going on. And I was like, I don't know, let me ask. And so I asked, and they were like, well, this is phase 1, this phase 2, phase 3 thing. Gave me the whole thing and said,
Mhm.
want me to tell people that? And they were like, yeah, tell people that. And I'm like, okay. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. So why do you think, if it's a phase, I guess, like, can we trust it? Like, what's the agenda here? If it's planned, or is it planned? Is it planned, or coincidence? Like, what's going on here, and why, and what benefit do we get from you telling us before it happens?
Well, I'll answer the second part first, which is you
Okay.
get to be prepared and less shocked so nobody poops their pants.
Mm.
Because some people will literally shit their pants because it will be that shocking. Some people will have a stroke in the middle of the street and hit the ground and die, from the shock value. Not a lot of people, but there are some people who will literally like have physical shock symptoms that are unlike anything they've ever had. If I said something months or a year and a half or 2 years before, then what happens, you go, oh, that one guy did say this is going to happen. And then all of a sudden it's less shocking and it's more accepting. So a little bit of warning ahead of time is mostly just gives people some psychological, emotional,
Well,
like
to
resiliency.
put a little spin on that, me being one guy witness to that did maybe help, but it also created a panic when it started happening, because it was like, that fucking guy. You remember that guy? The guy said this, the guy did that. Like, oh my God, what's going on? So like it's like, and I've been there. I've been up and down all over the place, been talking about it too. And that's why I'm so happy to be like live having this conversation after all this stuff, because there's the science. There's something that at that time, no one could have known whether you were telling the truth. Yeah, and I'm just being witness to hearing it. That's all I can say. Yeah. That could be a one hell of a coincidence, but the 6 to 18 months, the timeline was bang on. Yeah. That's the one thing that I will not discard as circumstantial evidence. That was your timing was perfect. Well, if that was a premonition.
Well, no, not a premonition. It's people who were charting just inevitable things that are going to happen. So, and I've always said with timeline, I've said, look, this is an event-driven series of scenarios, not date-driven. So if I give a time frame, super loose, it's super vague, because it's really about when do we get through to each next event. And there's gray area and wiggle room based on all of that. And there was a bit of a delay that probably delayed about 6 months this year. Some Galactic Senate subcommittee wanted to come and ask a bunch of questions, and that kind of put things on hold, maybe for 4 or 5, 6 months. So, but I think we're pretty much back on track at this point to whatever the regular event's supposed to be. Now, to answer the first part of the question, this is the hard part.
Yeah.
For people to really necessarily wrap their head around, because it's not simple. There's no simple answer to how this works. It's not a false flag. That's not what this is. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's an actual, for real, legit, no other possible questions need to be asked, just straight up invasion. That's not the answer either. It's neither of those things. Something that's a little bit different. We have let's just say a window of opportunity in which someone has been invited to be the bad guy. And they're like, yeah, totally. We'll totally be the bad guy. Sweet. No problem. But let's just say that whatever the plan is, is less important than understanding and knowing that there's a backstab coming. As far as internally, this is really an internal issue, and it's. I know some people don't like it when I say this outright, or I might get in a teeny bit of trouble if I say this outright, but I'm just going to say it outright. Everybody knows that the Schwabenlanders are going to like try and maneuver a backstab maneuver in this so that they can take over the world and establish Fourth Reich and all their stupid Nazi bullshit because they're stupid fucking Nazis, right? That's a duh. Everybody knows that. So what the question now is, what plan, counter plan, counter plan is in play here? How many levels of contrivance, are we going to move through here before we really end up with whatever's actually happening? That's not a simple answer. That's a really deliberately muddy, complicated answer, because the people who are going into this want a very muddy, confused scenario. So people can take out of what they want. I know they will. I know people come say, well, you said this. And I'm like, no, that's actually not what I said. What I said was, so even though I'm explaining that the best I can, people are going to take what they want out of that and say, well, it's a false flag. It's a real invasion. It's their holograms, whatever. I kind of feel like this. If you're dumb enough to think that a giant insect running down the street is a hologram, please go give it a hug and a kiss. Please, really, I fully encourage you. If you're that,
I wouldn't recommend it. Just
if you're that Dame Bramaged, feel free, go give them a hug and a kiss, and then when they eat you, you can serve it as example to the others that they're not a hologram. So, and the amount of propaganda and confusion that's being fed into the community right now is absolute, like up to here. I would say that 90%, maybe more, of the quote unquote, information floating around the community on who's who, what's happening, who's going to do what, who's going to intervene, who's not, who's going to do this, who's in charge, who's really in charge, who's not in charge, who's going to be in favor of this person and who's behind this person. It's all bullshit. It's 99, almost somewhere between 90 and 95% psychological operation, mostly from the Russians and the Chinese, to divide and conquer Western civilization and the Western powers. So that's a whole nother political conversation, social sort of political conversation, that anybody who thinks that us fighting amongst ourselves does anything other than embolden China, Russia, Iran, and other countries who see us as weak and see the rest of the Western world as weak because we're fighting amongst ourselves. People who don't understand that need to think about it, that the more we fight amongst ourselves, the weaker it makes us and the easier it makes for the Chinese to take Taiwan and Russia to take Ukraine and attack Alaska and Iran to attack Israel, and us to be able to do nothing about it because we're too busy fighting amongst ourselves, fighting a civil war. So it's the Schwabenlanders. It's just the fucking Nazis, as always. It's always fucking Nazis, and it still is. So as whatever we know about that, because I'm telling you what we know, none of that's going to matter. None of what we know matters. It's all going to happen, and then someone's going to stab someone in the back who's going to stab someone else, and it's going to be a clusterfuck. And then when the smoke clears, hopefully not too many people will be dead. That's really, really what we're hoping for, is minimum losses and minimum casualties at this point.
So, okay, let's take a step back, because I want to break that down a bit. But there's two questions that Chantel you were putting up for me. Let me go with Hairless first. Randy, how does the current woke mob agenda infecting society fit into these events?
That's political psychological operation for you to phrase it that way or frame it that way. People who think it's about sides, people who think that one side is somehow self-righteous and correct and truthful, and the other side is completely confused and satanic and demonic, that is all bullshit. It is all complete and total bullshit. We have a middle that has shrunk. We have extremes on both sides that are dangerous. The right-wing extremists, far more dangerous than any leftist extremist that we have in this country. I've been embedded with both. Trust me. But it's all bullshit. It's all extremist bullshit to try and label the other person as the cause of the problem when extremism on both sides is the problem. We either have to come back to the center and work with each other and cooperate and have little disagreements, or we can go to civil war and fight two very wrong extremes. Both extremes are wrong. Neither of them are correct. Neither of them are correct to fully blame the other one for all of the problems. They are both wrong. That's that simple.
Okay. And then Melmac says, if you needed to put a crew together tomorrow, what skills do you think would be needed the most? So I guess Mel's a prepper. So how do we...
Just make sure you have a flamethrower, guy.
Yeah.
Flamethrowers are legal in all 50 states in the U.S. They're only regulated in 2. You can get one napalm flamethrower for about $1,000 that shoots 45 feet. You want one that shoots 125 feet. They're about $3,000, but... I don't know what you have to look up what the rules in Canada are, but I think everyone should have a flamethrower.
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed flamethrowers here in Canada.
You might be surprised.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It might affect our igloos though. We don't.
It's mostly sold as like a crop maintaining to like burn, waste crops and weeds and stuff like that for big farmers, people with lots of acreage.
That's
you
true.
might be surprised. I was surprised that you can walk down the street in America with a flamethrower and it's not a gun, it's not a weapon.
I'm gonna have to look that up because now I'm curious. Okay, so
anyway, everybody needs a flamethrower. Not one of those bullshit butane ones, man. You got to look up a napalm flamethrower. Get it right.
So here's the thing: is like when I first met Randy, like I was meeting Randy like this, a little, to be honest, not as tame as he is today. He's tamed down a little bit since I met him. But I mean, this was at a time when I only knew UFOs and nuts and bolts and MUFON and all that other stuff. All that other crap, and my mind was just being blown, and I'm just like how confident you were at that. And then the thing is because the things you said happened indirectly on that timeline, I'm having a hard time. I hope you're not taking advantage of me when you start telling me what's going on after this. So.
All I do is repeat what other people tell me. I'm getting handed assessments that I look at and go, yeah, that sounds about right. And then I repeat to people. I'm not the genius behind any of it.
So Priscilla says flamethrower is added to the cart, and Cece says LMAO turns out they are legal in Canada. What the fuck?
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, you never know. Okay, so you say it's not a false flag and it's not a direct invasion.
Yep.
Then what's really going on? What is the end game? Like, if this is not, is this what it's, was it planned or is it part of the plan? Like, how do you explain to me these events? Is it a combination of all of these theories? And what's really going on?
Let me answer that. Let me pivot that a little bit to answer that what I think is a better way.
Okay.
If your neighborhood is on fire, stopping to ask the question in that moment, who started the fire? How did this fire start? Did gangs start the fire? Did teenagers smoking in the back of the somebody's shed start the fire? Did a cow knock over an oil lamp? Like, that is not the time to ask, how did this begin? How did this start? Why is this happening? And I'm going to suggest that once this is occurring, the same thing is going to be true. Asking, how did this happen? Why did this happen? What is really going on? Because the answer will be in front of people's faces. There will be troops on the ground. There will be things exploding, things in the sky, things being shot out of the sky. That's as real as it's going to get. And real things will blow up and real people will die. At that point, it's a real thing. Whatever it is, it's a real thing, and people are just going to have to deal with it like it's a real thing. And so I just kind of suggest to people, stay out of the way. Really, number one rule is stay out of the way. Don't get involved unless you got a flamethrower. But if you don't got a flamethrower, stay home. Bullets won't work. Shotguns.
So what is the, hold on here, let's back up. What is the target? What is it that we need a flamethrower for that bullets won't
giant
work?
Insects.
Okay.
Giant insects.
Fill me
about
in on that one.
6'7" feet tall. I don't know, something about like that.
So you're gonna have to bring me up to speed on that. So where did those fit in? Where do they come from?
Those are the invaders.
From?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I haven't been briefed on that. The only briefings that I've been given on them are basically like field infantry officer briefings. So I know a little bit about what they look like, a little bit about their exobiology, their vulnerabilities, their ground tactics. I know next to nothing about where they're from. I haven't been given that information.
I'm looking at the comments. A lot of people have been following you, so they're in the loop. So yeah, see, it's been a long time since I talked to you. So like this is the whole. This is why I like this live off the cuff, because then it's like, it's like, all right, well, I got to challenge you a little bit, but I can't deny it. I can't go back and do some research and be all these other things. So we're into this. So
now I will say this: it could end up being more than one species. Right, we're pretty sure it's going to start with the insectoid invasion, but it could get crazy. It could get crazy. It could be more than one alien invading species. It could get just nutso.
From where? From and why? You don't know.
No, I haven't been given that information. No one's briefed me on that.
Okay, when?
Again, anytime after the World War III phase starts, which could be any minute now, because China's probably going to invade Taiwan any minute now. And when I say any minute, realistically, that could literally be any time. Since the Chinese just told their people to stockpile for war, you presume that they want to give their people a certain amount of time to stockpile, but that could be 30, 60, 90 days before they're like, okay, everyone's had time to stockpile. So I'd say anytime, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. I'd be surprised if it was more than 6 months. I'd be surprised if it drags past 3 or 4, but we could be looking at 1 to 6 months.
All right, there's another timeline. I'm writing that down. You were right on the first one. Let's see if you're right on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so where we got to go down this rabbit hole. Where does the vaccine come and play with all this? What's all that?
Well, vaccines save lives, and seatbelts save lives, and life vests save lives, and helmets save lives, and so do vaccines. So again, this is classic psychological operation from the Russians and the Chinese to divide and conquer Western civilization. The only countries that are arguing about this are the Western countries that have been propagandized by the Russian and Chinese propaganda, telling you that there's microchips in the vaccine, or that the vaccine has virus in it, or some other kind of propaganda that's not true. Vaccines save lives. People who don't want to get vaccinated are likely to get very sick and die from the mutations that are coming, have long-term health effects. People who get vaccinated are going to be more likely to be okay. And the mutations and the variants are only going to get worse. They're not getting better. So all that anti-vax crap is psychological operation, Russian and Red Chinese propaganda to divide and conquer Western civilization. To convince us to not protect ourselves and to not protect our communities, not protect our children, not protect our parents, not protect each other.
So you're suggesting that the I guess the virus is some sort of reactant or some part of these insectoids to get used to?
No, I would say it's turning up, in the metaphor of the frog in the pot of boiling water. It's you want the water good and at a roaring boil before you have an invasion. Otherwise, it's too much of a shock too quickly. So this is all getting us prepared. We're all living in a state of emergency now, just as a sort of regular thing. We're just, oh yeah, it's an emergency. It's what we do now. And so the next time when World War III starts to happen, we're going to be like, oh, hey, we've already been doing this pandemic thing for a while now. So we're not so shocked and surprised. Hey, what are we going to do? Yeah. So it'll be, by the time it happens, people will be so pushed and prodded upon by everything else that's happening.
That's almost going to be easy to accept. Totally. Yeah, no, yeah, I get that. I get that. And I mean, and without knowing without the ET element in it, I get the sense that the war is coming and things like that too. You can feel it. You can tell. Yeah. So, okay. End game. So insectoids are here. They're invading. People are staying home. They may or may not have a flamethrower. They may or may not have the vaccination. I know those things don't matter right now. Decisions have been made. Some people know this. Some people don't. Some people believe it, some people don't. Whatever,
Yep.
we're there.
Yep.
Insects are here.
Yep.
What happens after?
Well, good question. I will say that all of these situations are fluid. But whatever happens is based on what happens in the moment, not just based what's on paper. But when we're talking about this on paper, that means you've got maybe 1.5, maybe 2.5 years of war, and then we have some friendly species come along and help us eject the invading species, and then we're done.
So like the second, like the first and second coming of Christ, all those things.
Pretty much.
There's a challenging question here. I don't know if you, I mean,
I got RFID dog tags behind my left and right ear. I have had communication with senior military.
Let me read the question for the podcast.
Fuck that little piece of shit.
Okay.
and his fucking attacking my person as a challenge me as a military officer. It is a felony to lie about being a military officer in this country. We do not have a sense of humor about that shit. I've been doing this for 10 years, and if I were a fraud, the FBI would have come after me years ago. So anyone who thinks at this point that I am not legitimate or that I do not have proof, have not looked at the dog tags behind my ears, have not talked to the people in senior positions who have thanked me, shooken my hand and thanked me, including former Minister of Defense Paul Hellyer, when I met him at MUFON, shook my hand and said, "Thank you for your work and your service." When that motherfucker's had a cabinet official shake his hand, then he can criticize me and tell him everyone else like him can shut the fuck up and stick a dick back in their mouth. I'm fucking tired of it.
No, I appreciate what you're saying. I'm just going to read the question for the podcast. Well, actually, you know what? The podcast people listening, I think you can get the point of the question. Okay, so thanks. We'll get on to the next one. So, I mean, and those are challenging too. Like, I mean, why? Let's talk about that. Like, I understand your emotion. I understand your defense.
Oh, I'm just sick and tired of it.
I know, I get it, but you don't
because it only comes from this tiny number of people. I get very few bits of hate mail. I get very few complaints. Very few people attacking me on that. And the truth is,
well, you're not
fucking suck a dick. They
well,
don't fucking mean anything.
Okay, let's just hold on. Let's just break it down. Like, I mean, I get where I get it. And if somebody were to do that to me, I would get explosive about it too. And
I'll tell you what, any of those motherfuckers want to come to me in person at a conference and challenge me, they'll get a bloody fucking nose. I'll pop them right in the face if they say that to my face.
Yeah, I remember you. Don't you worry, sir. But what I'm trying to say is it's hard to a lot of people go through that. Let's talk about the phenomenon of assuming that people don't have what they have just because you haven't showed it, haven't produced it. Say it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have it, but you're not entitled to do so.
Not to anybody other than the FBI, the Marine Corps, the NSA, or another government or law enforcement agency who doesn't talk to me. So I'm not worried about that. I am not obligated to answer to any citizen for any reason for that.
Well, exactly. And it helps, but what does it actually help? So, it just verifies for that individual, and then whether or not they accept it or not, it's really hard. It's really, they obviously want more, and we'll go from there. Now, I'm just talking in general. So, I mean, that need to verify the source, that comes from something else entirely internally. So if we were to, Stephen Greer gets attacked left, right, and center. Some people like him, some people don't like him. Lou Elizondo, some people like him, some people don't like him. And I want to get to him in a minute. Priscilla asked, what would I do if someone asked me to prove that I served? And I'd probably react similar to Randy, be like, I'll show you what I learned. Come a little closer. We learn how to fight. So like, I'll show you.
I aced the polygraph. Anyone who doesn't understand how polygraphs work, can stuff it up their butt. But I aced the polygraph, which means, I am telling the truth. I am not lying because I aced the polygraph.
And I get it. I believe you. I don't need to see it. I don't need to feel it. I don't need that. It doesn't solve anything. And what I'm focusing on right now is trying to understand why that need is important. Even if these things are true, like you mentioned before, the things are happening. So the things with or without these credentials, let's just benefit of the doubt here. You made a prediction, or you said something that ended up happening when it was supposed to happen when you said it. So I can't testify to everything that everyone has said, but I can at least say live on this that I can confirm with my own ears, my own experience, that something happened after you said it. And I'm not. So at that point, for me, it doesn't matter if you're in the Marines or not. You're right, and that's the concerning part. So let's okay. So let's just I remember this is when we have to crack open the beers. This is when we were drinking last time when this happened. And then so yes, I remember Paul Hellyer. Let's go back to that. I'll give you some reinforcement. I was there. I seen them. I met Paul Hellyer.
God rest his soul.
Oh,
He
yes,
passed away this year.
Yeah,
Rest his soul.
like, I mean, it was the people, like, you have a lot of fans. We have a lot of supporters. This is a lot of controversial stuff. Whether or not we can prove you have credentials or not, we still can't prove about the insectoids, and they're willing to believe that too. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things all over the place.
Well, let me answer to this psychological question first of all, which is whether or not people actually want proof when they're asking for it. And I don't know that they actually do. What I think I have come to understand is that people have way more confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance about what they want. So when they really are asking for proof, they're just asking you to prove that what they already believe to be true or not true is true or not true. Or they will believe what they want to believe, not believe what they don't want to believe. And often evidence or proof really only affects a tiny number of critical thinkers, which in my experience is a tiny percentage of this community of people who are critical thinkers. Most of the people in the community are believers or disbelievers of one thing or another. So I actually think, as much as I believe in critical thinking and think we should be about critical thinking, sadly, the truth is most of the people who are out there are not critical thinkers, and they're not asking questions because they want proof. They are asking questions because they want someone to confirm what they already believe to be true.
So and I get that. And Stephen, I see the rest of your comments. So I'm gonna say something to that effect, but I'm gonna frame it a little bit differently, and hopefully this goes a little bit better, because I want to give you the opportunity to ask your questions and fair, but I want to give Randy the opportunity to not be victimized if this is something that he's been a subject to for a long time. He is an experiencer as well. I mean, this is, there's that element. So, I mean, I get where you're coming from. It's here. I'm not entertaining it, not because it's just because I just want to control the conversation a little bit better here.
Oh, sure.
So if we talk about Lou Elizondo, for an example, okay, sure. I want to frame this a little bit, but I need to know your opinion on him and the things he's done and where he's at right now. So give me up to speed with your opinion on Lou and what he's
sure. I know very little about him other than what I've seen in the public sphere, what I've seen a couple of interviews that he's done with some folks in which I felt the answers to the questions that he gave were good answers. The information that he provided to the people asking questions was good. And in some cases, he provided what was even more necessary, unsolicited answers to question than what was being asked to him. So what I have seen of him being interviewed, he does a pretty good job of a guy being interviewed for whatever information he's supposed to be disseminating. Beyond that, I know nothing about his background. I know nothing about his record. I haven't bothered to ask anybody any questions because, to be honest, it doesn't matter to me. And whatever his job is and whatever he's doing and whatever information that he has leaked out, brought forward, to be honest, it doesn't matter to me whether he served, where he did what job he said he did, or whether he's, from a different department and they want to say, no, say he did this or say he did that. None of that matters to me because
I don't think that's where I was kind of leading into.
I don't think that affects the credibility of the information. I think the information is sort of stands in its own credibility. But beyond that, I don't know anything about him. So I really wouldn't know how to say he's a great guy or he's a terrible person.
So what I was going to kind of frame
him,
into is that he's a guy that had credentials challenged, and then he hasn't provided everything that's been asked for, but he happened to get something to reinforce and put him in place to certain areas within the task force he claims to be a part of. So there's some evidence of his existence in that, but not everything you need. Now, without that evidence, some people still believe him. So that's kind of where I'm framing on, is just to use him as another example who may or may not be in the military, is putting out a message, may have been told in the same way in a different department for a different reason because of this plan. That element doesn't matter unless you're not telling the truth. And that would be important to use as evidence to support that, but unfortunately, we can't disprove you either or him until we get confirmation, until we get disclosure. So there's a lot of this emotion and this strength and all this anger and stuff that's coming through in this high school drama, which I'm involved in too, because I see it and I'm trying to help, and I'm hoping I'm mediating right now because I'm talking to Stephen as well, to say that like we got to focus on the facts, we got to focus on the events, and we got to think about the future. So whether or not we get invaded by aliens or insectoids or anything like that in the future, okay, that's yet to be proven. That's something that very well could be happened. It's very specific. So let's talk about the idea of an invasion by aliens. So at the expo, another thing that you had said is that it was going to be a fake alien invasion. So which has anything changed?
No. This is one of those. No. That's a fair question, fair thing to point out that I said that, and what I've had to revise and say. Look, at that time, I was instructed to say it that way. We are now at the point where I can say, not really fake. That's really not the answer that we want to give. That was more of a let's not panic about this way of saying it as we're kind of farther away to the lead up. As we got to a closer point, my brigadier and I continued to have conversation about this. And I was like, look, I'm feeling kind of bad that, we're framing this in a way that's not completely accurate. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, change that. He's like, that was sort of the early soft way that we wanted to say this. And now we're choosing to be more clear about the information as we have it. And people can just have to understand that as a PR officer, my job is to disseminate information in classified and declassified talking points that I'm allowed to talk about certain events with. So that was what was given to me as far as here's what we have to say, here's how we have to frame it. And I had to go, all right, I guess we'll just correct that later. And so now we're at the point where we get to correct that part and say, it's not fake. There may be some orchestration. I got to use air quotes there, but it's just more complicated than that. It's just a much, much more complicated scenario. And I think when it's happening, it's going to be as real as anything needs to be, and people don't need to worry about asking themselves those questions. They just need to deal with what's happening, because none of those answers to those questions ultimately matter. They just don't.
Well, and lots have changed. That's the other thing too. Like, I mean, I totally understand that. So even if the prime directive at that time or the and I'm not using that in the right context, but like the initial task that you completed as it was given to you, things change, the world changes, and then information changes. And then that's another issue with this information thing over years and things like that. Hell, I might piss somebody off one day in the future, and then they might go back to a video that I've done and said, back in such and such time, you said this, and then you didn't do this, and blah, blah, blah. And that could be a shitstorm one day. But I acknowledge the intent and the time that was spent in order to associate all those facts, but there's pain in that. So the root of it all is people are afraid of this being possible. People are digging into finding holes in that, so they don't believe that it's true. I mean, there's the reason for it. That's how I look at it. Like, I understand everyone's position. I understand yours and everyone, like all this other stuff, but none of it is closer to the truth until it happens.
Yeah.
And that's why this whole thing is a mess. And the association that we created, and that was just based off your idea of do your own MUFON. Well, I did my own MUFON and then some. As we've been, thank you. And I mean, that's part of the team as well. And, I'll shout out to our members here. So we got, Angela, you're not a member anymore. Where'd you go? But anyways, I'll see you, Angela, Moon, you're here. Chantel, Jacqueline, I see you. Priscilla, I see you. All part of that. And things have changed. I've changed. I've evolved. I said a lot of bad things about MUFON, and then now I'm talking about them positively because things have changed. Right. Directive and messages, and so I want to kind of get into that because it's not that I don't disagree with you, but I don't necessarily agree with you on some things simply because as an investigator, there's not enough evidence to confirm either way.
Sure.
But I do understand.
Always respect that.
I do understand the possibility of either scenario. And as an investigator, when I'm trying to a licensed one, mind you, I do this on a regular basis, I try to look at the probability index. So on a balance of probability, it's with the way that everything is moving, it seems very probable that war is going to happen. It seems very probable with the United States now having Air Force, Air Force becoming Space Force, this new weird acronym UFO program to cover the UFO program, all these other things, regulating the data. All these things are preparation for when they get to space and maybe they make contact and it's unavoidable to get that message. Yeah. So as an example, John Majorowski shared something, I think it was today or something about sending a rocket out to hit an asteroid, and it's to protect the Earth, but it's going to hit it a year from now. So if they're able to project that asteroid is going to come here a year from now, and they're sending a rocket now, using that same logic, it would make sense that perhaps they see that this Planet X or Nibiru or whatever this thing is coming, if that's where it's coming from, I'll just throw that conspiracy in there. Maybe it's coming, maybe it's here, and all this other stuff is just to meet them at the gate. And then once that happens, now we got to talk about intent. So that would make sense if they're trying to preserve it. But do you think they're going to stop them at the door, or are they going to let them in? Right? Because now that we're in there, right? Are we, where's the Trojan horse, the ruse, and all that other stuff? That's, so if, what do you think on that?
Again, the whole situation is fluid, but what I'm told is the invasion force will make landfall. They will have troops on the ground, and then we will be in a situation that we will have to resolve after some number of months, years, and then really when we're a year after that, literally nothing I have ever said ever will ever matter. Because we will be having completely different conversations about the information that we have, the factual admitted information that we have. Nothing that I or anybody has ever said vaguely will ever matter because of the conversations that we're having then.
So are you the only one that's been given this directive? Are you the only one in the world that's
no? I mean, not the only one in the world. I am in a unique position in the sense that most people who come out and say things, who don't get assassinated or commit suicide in a motel somewhere, are because a person in their chain of command said, we would like you to, go be a quote unquote whistleblower. There are a number of people who have been doing that for decades. I am the first and to this date only person in which my superiors did not ask me to go pretend to be a whistleblower. They asked me to be the PR guy. They asked me to be their public relations officer and disseminate information directly from the command staff and our intelligence officers to the general public. So that is a unique position. At the moment, that's a unique position, but that doesn't mean that I'm the only person that has been given some sanction to give information to the public. It's just, it's often less direct with other people. I believe at this point, I'm still the only person who is saying that direct command from my chain of command from senior officers is why I'm doing this, not because I decided I wanted to blow the whistle.
No, and I get that. So
Yeah.
so are you're being paid then? Are you being paid to spread this message? This is just part of it. Yeah.
No, I got a bump in security clearance. I get extra briefings. I got some extra power and authority, but I don't get any extra money.
So what's your incentive? Why do it? Why follow the instruction?
Because I'm a Marine and a soldier and I do what I'm told, which I was asked, but really it's the kind of ask where someone's really like, hey, we're asking you to do this thing and take this responsibility. Do you mind? And as a soldier, you don't go, what? I don't do responsibility. No, I was like, yeah, of course I'll do it because it's the most responsible thing I can do.
Well, what if you didn't? What would happen? Just
they would have picked somebody else. They would have picked someone else for it. There was a short list of officers that they were going down, and so I was not the only one on that list. So if I had not wanted to put my name on the list, then it would have been somebody else.
And if you were to stop right now, they would just move to the other list?
I seriously doubt that. I don't know that another person would start doing this job at this point. We might just decide that all the information that I have given is sufficient to this point and no new information is really needed. To be honest, it's really not. I'm just repeating myself to people who maybe haven't heard it before, but no new information is going to make a difference at this point.
Okay. No, I'm just going around the bush there to figure that out. So so let's get into the hive, I guess, the hive consciousness, and that's another thing too. So I did participate in a remote viewing session that Randy actually invited me to, and me and my wife actually, and I still thank you to this day for not charging us for that. That was a nice invitation to that, and you know, because I was that guy at the beginning saying I need to see it, man, I need to prove it, I need to know that this stuff works. And as an investigator, and you know, I subject myself to these things, not to believe one way or another, just to understand perspective. And so I participated in your remote viewing lesson. It was a 4-hour lesson. And I remember the exercise was to, you know, I guess describe something that was hidden in a purse and whatnot. We all had to draw.
Well, I had people give me objects, and I sorted out the objects, and then I stuck them in my hat and hid my hat in it behind the chair where no one could see it, and then see it if people could view the hat.
So, as a witness to all that, I can say that it was done as a fair experiment, and participating in that, following his instructions, I was able to successfully draw and see the shape and the color. You know, and it was do you remember what it was?
I remember there were 5 objects, and I can't remember what one you had.
There was like so I remember the pen. It was a blue pen.
You got the pen.
Okay. And then there was a lighter and then lipstick and a whole bunch of other things too.
So
so for me, it was just like, okay, so whether or not the story and all these other things, that doesn't matter, because you taught something, you gave instructions, you led me introduced me to remote viewing, to consciousness. And as a male, that was easier for me to get into. Whereas with hypnosis and stuff, it's more soft and soothing. I end up falling asleep because it's you know, just the kind of type of environment, but I was able to engage in it. So what I want to frame into, because we're going to our commercial break, just a quick 5-minute commercial break, is I want to talk about the teaching. I want to talk about, because you have this information.
Oh yeah.
But you're not just spreading it. You're doing something with it. You're teaching people. You're preparing people yourself.
Oh yeah.
And I want to kind of get into that. I mean, is that hollow bed project still a thing, or is that
it's a thing. I will just say that after nearly a decade of attempting to fundraise external sources, we have determined that we are no longer wasting time attempting to fundraise from external sources, and we will generate the money internally our own way. Okay. So we figure after wasting 10 years at that, you know, in less than 10 years, another 10 years, we can certainly fund it on our own. So we're just done like asking people like big venture capital people with money to even bother talking to them anymore, because it is a complete and absolute waste of time. Talking to people who don't understand the technology, don't understand what it takes to get to a prototype, what it takes to get to production, and then what the end result long term is. Everyone wants a short term, like, how do we make this faster? If you have the dumbest, let me put it this way. Anytime I talk to someone about this, and a potential investor, and they ask me this question, I know they're an idiot. And the question is, well, but what if you had twice as much money, and could you hire twice as many engineers and get it done in half the amount of time? And the answer is no, because that's not how engineering works. You're an idiot. And that's, anytime someone asks me that question, I know they're a moron. And I have been asked that question by every single person I've ever talked to who has money to invest. And no one understands like what you really got to throw down and what you're going to get out of it if you throw down. So we're just kind of done having that conversation.
Yeah, no, makes sense. So for those who have already invested and then you're now doing it internally, then it's still going to be created. That's still allocated towards the production of the product, though.
Oh, I think that the GoFundMe that I had up before raised like a couple $1,000, to be honest with you. I mean, it was like nothing. So of course, you know, whatever we got, I mean, I'm going to be putting in as much of my own money as I can make, which at this point, doing some different things will be plenty, but we're just going to generate the money otherwise and put it in ourselves. So we're going to self-generate it.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm just trying to cover some other possible, concerns people have. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of things to be mad about in this. I'm not picking on you. I'm not defending anything. I'm taking the opportunity to expose that there's a lot of bullshit in ufology and paranormal stuff. And what we're going to talk to when we get back is the stuff that really matters, and that's helping the people evolve and building to the future. Okay, so we'll pause right here, but we'll continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association to see the videos that go with the audio. Remember that you're listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we'll be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone in the universe.
My mission is to assist and help those experiencing this phenomenon in such a way that they're able to continue and live with it, and also in a way that it can be measured, quantified, and reinforced within today's society, so that way it can be accepted and no longer viewed in a negative way. One thing that I do value in people is the ability to sense and feel when something is right and when something is wrong. That is a natural ability that we all share. Now, when we combine that with the paranormal and ufological abductions or visits, I have the sensation that these abilities are connected. Not everyone can sense, not everyone can feel. However, those who can are typically connected with something that we cannot explain. And part of my research is not just to investigate the experience, but it's also to understand and study the experiencer to find out what they have in common with other experiencers, to try to figure out what the actual makeup is in order to be on that spectrum. There's a lot of it happening all over the world, and I do not know of any other study that is focusing on the individuals as people, only the phenomenon. Welcome back. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. If you're enjoying this episode so far, consider becoming a member of our channel or send us a super chat. Your membership will get you bonus content like exclusive videos, and it will help us reach our goal of launching our training center, Interstellar, the Academy of Ufology and Paranormal Studies. Also, if you've ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrial dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to tessacan.org/reporting system. The more reports we get, the more we will understand this phenomenon and how it affects our people. With the others who have already reported, be that example that proves we are making a difference. And if it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do. And for that, we thank you. I am still here with Captain Randy Cramer. And it's been heated. It's been good. It's been all over the place. It's emotional. It's hard. It's tough. It's real. We got another hour to go. We might go overtime depending on how we feel. So please, let's not piss off the Cap unless we really want to. But so speaking on that, before we get into the remote viewing and things like that, the perspective, it's like. So, Captain, is that your rank? Is that where the captain comes from? Yeah. So. Well, no, just making sure, right? And then you're American, and you got the ability to use your mind and see and do things with it. So, that sounds like Captain America to me. So, I'm kind of reaching here, not making a joke, but that's convenient.
It's just a convenient that's a convenient association. There's plenty of captains. So
I got you.
One, but anyway.
I got you. So on the ability and the superpower kind of concept and idea, I want to kind of before we get into the psionics part, because that's what you're teaching and what you're showing.
Yep.
And I remember you also talking about the hive consciousness and the connection. So for the experiencer element, if you wouldn't mind just walking us all through, and me again, on your when you were 10, when you started meditating, did you have any experiences prior to 10, or then when you made?
Oh yeah, there were plenty of things that occurred from very, very, very young ages. Just not all that I remembered clearly at the time. Some of it didn't come clearly as memory until later, but there's stuff that goes back as far as I can remember, to be honest with you. So
so like to the tone, to the tones you were hearing, and then the response to the message with the RFID, all that other stuff.
Sure.
You remember, you know where I'm talking about. So walk us through that for those who have not heard this story for the first time, and then I'm gonna enhance that after.
Well, sure. So I guess the setup to that story is that I was in a process of memory retrieval and memory recovery that started probably in my late 20s. I mean, I was remembering stuff much earlier, but I would have to say that it really started to get to me in such a way that I was like, okay, I got to deal with this. And that was probably in my late 20s. So I started seriously, and I mean like, 2 meditative sessions a day, every day for, multiple years, so that I could get into my subconscious and make sure that I was pulling out clear 5 sensory memories that were real memories. And so it was a lengthy process, but I got to a point in that process when it became clear to me that any more progress that I was going to need to make was going to have to be made by contacting people through my chain of command and getting some switches turned off that were blocking things, that were making things difficult, that were making normal like functioning difficult, things that were trying to suppress ability at that point, which is a general precaution. I don't take it personally. Anyone who's ex-military personnel who's been through this process of having their abilities repressed or suppressed shouldn't take it personally, shouldn't get too bent out of shape about it. It's, just a safety precaution so that someone with those abilities doesn't go off half-cocked and waste a bunch of people or, make their brains explode or whatever. It's not cool. So the suppression and the repressing of abilities is just a thing that happens. But I knew that I was going to have to get some kind of interaction there from them and some agreement from them in order to make that happen. So I was basically sending out a signal, a telepathic psionic signal to those personnel, whoever they may be at that time, which I was not super clear on, and hope that someone would get back to me. And I was consistently doing that on a daily basis for almost 5 weeks before I got a response. And the response was basically, as I was walking through my kitchen at my apartment, there were a series of tones that went off in the left ear first, then the right ear, and then the left ear again. And when I say tones, we're talking like a hearing test tone. It's just a, but it was the precise number of seconds that it was in the left ear, it repeated in the right ear, and then repeated again in the left ear. So exact same tone, exact same duration, left, right, left. And I stopped. I had goosebumps, so I knew something was up. In case people don't know, goosebumps isn't just some kind of biological reaction that has nothing to do with what's happening around you, but it's common sensory experience that people have psionic sensory experiences, which can include non-physical entities, ghosts, poltergeists, all kinds of other things. Getting your goosebumps going up is your own sort of radar system telling you that something's happening. So I got all kind of goosebumping. I was like, whoa, something's happening. This is weird. So I stood still there for a second and waited to see what was going to happen. And then as I was about to go, okay, I don't know what that was, and was about to proceed, I hear a voice that sounds like someone has a plastic bucket over their head and they're talking right behind my neck, right behind my skull. And when I say like had a plastic bucket, if you put a plastic bucket over your head, your voice would sound kind of muffled like this against, a tight reflective background. It just sounded just like that. I don't know why. I'm not completely sure why it makes that sound. It turns out it is a micro walkie-talkie in the back of my skull, which was, in this case, this was not a telepathic communication. This was actually an in-skull radio communication. So maybe that has something to do with the way that it vibrates in the back of your head. But anyway, I hear a voice, woman's voice, that says, please hold 2 fingers up on your left and 3 fingers up on your right. I stopped, and at that point I'm like, oh shit, hearing voices, that's not a good sign. I was really having a moment of like, what the fuck is happening right now? I was taken aback by the entire experience. At no point was I like, oh, there's a voice talking in my head. What's up, voice in my head? Like I was, taken aback for a second. So I paused and was like, what? what the fuck? And then after only a few seconds, calmly heard the voice repeat, would you please hold up 3 fingers on your left hand, 2 fingers up on your right? And again, I was like, rule number 1, you never do what the voices in your head tell you. And so I was kind of just having that moment where, well, absolutely not am I going to do any such thing, because I don't know who you are. I'm not saying any of this. This is all just racing through my head at the moment. So, but I'm mostly just standing still, kind of waiting to see what happens next, but not responding at that point. And then a third time, will you please hold up 3 fingers on your left, 2 fingers on your right? At that point, for some reason, I'm like, well, I guess they're just going to keep pestering me until I do it. So at this point, 3 times a charm, I guess. I must not be hallucinating whatever's occurring here. So, I did that. And then it was like, okay, great. Now, 4 fingers on your left, 1 finger on your right. Okay, now, 2 fingers on your left and 5 fingers on your right, or whatever it was. And so I did that. And then I hear, good, you can hear us loud and clear. And I said, yes, I can. And then another voice pipes in, which was a man's voice. And he says, Captain Cramer, do you recognize the sound of my voice? Am I an officer in your chain of command who is known to you? And I said, yes, this sounds like Colonel Jack Jameson, my former commanding officer. He says, yes, that's correct. He said, now I'm going to put you on the horn with my Brigadier General, which is your Brigadier General. And then I start talking to Brigadier General Julian Smythe, who we're on a first name base at this point. We've been doing this long enough. So when I say Julian or my Brigadier, that's what I'm talking about. And then he and I began a conversation that lasted a couple hours that day and continued every day after that, probably for the next 2-3 weeks, that were a daily conversation that he and I had, which was essentially him convincing me that I should say yes and volunteer for the job that he was asking me to volunteer for. I was not ordered to. I was not commanded to. I was requested to. But I get that as an officer, I was being requested to do something that if I accepted, I was doing my duty to do the best to provide accurate information that the command staff wanted me to provide. So even though it was a choice, I wasn't ordered to do it. I still, as a soldier, considered it my duty to act upon the request that was being made of me. So he and I talked.
You were a soldier prior to that, right? Or you?
Oh, my 30-year career, 30-year tour. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember that was almost verbatim to what you had said those years ago as well in that experience. So you are,
one of the weird, I've had a lot of weird things. That was one of the weirder things that has happened to me outside of my military service, for sure.
Do they still talk to you?
Oh, sure. We don't use the micro walkie-talkie anymore. There is a implant that connects to a computer that's essentially like a pseudo hive mind, pseudo hive consciousness. That's essentially a psionic implant. So the communication we have now is completely telepathic. So
do you remember the process?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you remember the process of receiving these implants?
Oh no, it was I was unconscious for it, so no, I don't remember getting them. So, but I know I have lots.
How does one who doesn't remember that or wouldn't remember that determine whether or not they have one?
That is an answer that I would answer to my students, which I would say, look, the continued daily development of psionic disciplines and self-mastery gives us access to our subconscious mind, our greater brain, in ways in which we can barely understand until we do it every day for months or years and receive the benefits that we get from that. The answer to that would be, I would get into knowing your mind well enough so that you know how to ask your subconscious that question and know that you're getting an accurate answer.
So, okay, the reason why I frame that up too is for our audience too. I mean, is we all know that I've had an experience myself. So the at the time, to frame you up as well, Randy, is the reason why I was partaking in the remote viewing is because I was receiving tones at that time.
Right.
And when you describe that to me, then is when I started to be thinking like, what the hell, what the heck's going on? And it's weird. And I hadn't heard that from anyone because I kept it secret. I kept it inside. I didn't say anything. This whole like experiencer anonymous, all these other things. Like, I mean, I've been a closet experiencer for a long time too, trying to figure out what the hell that is and why I'm asking how could do all these other things. And then when I talked to you afterwards and I explained that to you, at that time, it was kind of tones. And I know you've seen this before, but I'm just prepping this for the audience. I didn't get any voices. I didn't get any messages. I didn't do, I didn't get anything direct. But then I asked you, how do I interpret it? And then you said, well, the next time when you hear it, just listen to it. You told me to. So December. So I'll give you context. So the ACE was June 2019, something like that.
Something like that, I think. Or
18-ish, something close to that. The December that same year is when I got the tones again. And then I remembered you saying that. And I was like, okay, I'm here, joking. And then that's when I got this. So yeah. So I showed you this before, showed you the map. We kind of didn't really get into it, but I told you I wanted to talk to it. So that's why I frame this is because the synchronicity is, and I still get the tones. I still get, I'm calling it angel radio. I'm calling it, whatever it is. I'm not hearing voices per se. I get these feelings. I get these intuitions. I get these goosebumps, as you say. And I just have this sense of knowing whenever I need to decide on something while reflecting on that. So taking that into context, that's what I've been dealing with for about a year or so. So this is kind of something I've been doing on this channel quite a lot, trying to figure it out. I'm interested in your perspective as to, why am I down a similar path in terms of hearing the tones, getting a message, bringing everybody together, preparing for what's next. Like I'm on a very similar path. Is that a coincidence? Or am I on your list? Like, come on, you gotta tell me.
No, I would call that I would call that a series of textbook psionic experiences that are indicative of someone making personal development steps so that they're able to perceive, hear, listen, receive information more clearly. I would say this kind of textbook
in the sense of what though? What category am I in?
That's the cool part. Textbook in a general sense. So you're matching indicators that would indicate to me as a professional observer of this phenomenon that, okay, that's a legit psionic experience that you're having. Now, all information as it comes through is just information. We don't know whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's crappy, whether it's useful, whether it's applicable, or whether it's just from somewhere else that really doesn't do us much any good. Information is just information. So once you receive any information as an investigator, you just like, okay, what is this information? What do I do with this? What is this? What can it be used for? Does it have a purpose or many purposes? Like that's where you start to ask the questions, and whatever the answers are those are the self-fulfilling answers of whatever the whole process is about.
No, and then that's exactly what it's been for me, is me trying to figure out, showing it, and the feelings around that, the direction in which I'm being pulled through the reflection of this has led me to the possibility of what you talked about earlier in the first half. Not out of projecting it or knowing it's going to happen, but sensing that it's going to. So there's a bit of a preparation on our part or on my part, in that sense that I know disclosure is going to happen. It's more so of preventing or preparing for what happens after. And that's why I ask these certain questions and things like that to other people too, to try and make sense of it. And I prep it in a certain way, so it's not kind of loaded in the sense of me going all batshit crazy, which I could be. Who knows? Some people do, but I mean, I balance
do.
myself. I wouldn't necessarily. I have to identify myself as an experiencer.
Yeah.
But I mean, but there's a lot of similar traits. So if I am, so let's talk about psionics. So you have students. So what is it that you, as the teacher, are teaching said students?
I've broken down the curriculum into 4 levels. So my level 1 students are getting the most basic rudimentary scientific process of what the brain waves are doing during meditation, and why meditation is easy and not difficult, why it's simple and not complicated when you understand that it's science and that it is not spirituality, it is not anything airy-fairy, it is not anything magic, it is science and it is physics. When you understand it that way, it becomes very simple. So that's level 1 classes, just the basics of meditation and getting people into a habitual routine. Each class, each level that I'm describing is a 4-week course that has a weekly meeting, weekly Zoom class where I talk to students, give them the material, answer questions. So for students to get through all 4 levels takes 4 months. So level 1 class is 4 weeks, level 2 class is 4 weeks, 3, etc. So the level 2 class, level 1 class is super simple, like super simple. And I've had a few people complain when they took the level 1 class, this is too easy. It's like, yeah, it's the level 1 class. And I wrote this curriculum so a 12-year-old could do this part. Okay. So it gets a little more complicated. Level 2 class, we start talking about.
It's like the MUFON manual for ufology.
Yeah.
For 12-year-olds.
Yeah, it's we want to make it very simple. Level 2 class is basic psionic self-defense, understanding the human energy system, the planetary energy system, psionic objects. Level 3 is more advanced psionic self-defense, field programming, more advanced techniques and understandings for how your brain works, the personality works for development issues. That is all to get everybody ready and prepared so that they can do the level 4 work. The level 4 work is just me teaching 4 different psionic skills that people can, a specific practice, a discipline for that skill that they can practice and get better at. And we decided to do 3 easy ones and the special one. The 3 easy ones are dowsing, remote viewing, precognition, and then the fun one is teaching my students telekinesis. So I have taught my students using a telekinesis trainer, which I taught them how to make, using techniques that I taught them how to do, and have students in my level 4 class who have replicated the technique, learning how to do telekinesis. So at this point, my curriculum starts simple because that's where you got to start, builds upon that, a little more complicated, so that what I consider the basic fundamentals that any person needs to know, they can get in levels 1 through 4. You dedicate time and energy on top of that in a daily disciplinary practice, you will make development. It will happen. That is what I'm teaching. That is how I'm encouraging and sort of making my students do it. I'm telling them, look, you want to do this curriculum? This is how we do this. You start a practice every day. You do this every day. We come here every week. We'll do the next lesson. We'll talk about how it's going every day. And students who are sticking with it are having phenomenal development and results. Phenomenal. I'm super proud of them. I'm super proud of them.
Good. What was I going to say? You kind of froze. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, you're still there. So, I mean, let's so that's great, because like we want to develop this psychic ability or psychogenic phenomenon as well. If we have the ability to do it, why not spend some time with a teacher that understands it to hone those skills or sharpen those skills?
And I don't teach my students anything that I can't do or replicate myself or that I haven't done myself. So I'm not teaching my students a theory that I don't know how to apply. I am teaching telekinesis my students how to do things.
Is what, moving objects, right, with your mind?
Yeah, moving objects with your mind, moving objects with your mind powers.
How easy is it for you to do that? If I were to tell, like, I'm not trying to turn you into a show pony, but like, could you move something right now? Or?
I don't demonstrate to anybody what my own abilities are, because I don't want people to know what my level of ability is. And there's no point in me showing you on a trainer, because people can see a trainer can look like a magic trick or something. People can choose to not believe that. I really don't give a fuck what people believe. Again, I'm teaching my students how to do it. They're doing it and replicating it. That's all that matters. I don't have to show or teach anybody. I don't have to show anybody what my ability or capability is.
Yeah,
But
no, it's like I compare that to.
But I demonstrate to my students. I show my students, because I'm teaching them. I show them how to do it on the trainer and get them to replicate the technique. So,
you know, and I appreciate that line of thinking, because a lot of people do come to mind like, oh, well, you make these claims and it's protected by this paywall, or you have to buy it to see it, and blah, 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 it doesn't exist, all these things. So the easy way to compare that to me on a normal level is I have a martial arts instructor. I have a sensei. I have a teacher who teaches me martial arts. He's 6 Dan, 6 Dan black belt. All right. Like I'm not going to walk up to him and say, prove to me that you're a 6 Dan black belt, because there's a plethora of moves that he could do to make me scream and cry and do a lot of pain. But by him teaching me at level 1 and level 2 and all that other stuff, I trust him and I learn and we grow together, because he's always learning. So we don't, for those who think that just, like the teaching element, especially us who's going to get in, I'm going to be getting into teaching you guys how to investigate the phenomenon, all phenomenon as well. I'm going to have to dumb it down too, because sometimes it's hard for some people. But if the people can get it at that low level, then everything else becomes easier, and then everything else evolves and it helps. And the money aspect, you got to look into the fact that this is time. Like if somebody, I would much rather pay to be taught by someone that may or know something than to read it in a book and without proper guidance. Because you can get these resources elsewhere for free. But you don't get a teacher. You don't get, so like there's that's another part I just want to kind of throw in there too. With part of the mix is a lot of people are thinking, oh, free energy, free money, free this, free that, everything should be free. But we do have to pay for some things. But then there's some people who can't afford it and all these other things, blah, blah, blah. But I just kind of wanted to get into the whole, having to pay for a service isn't bad. If you understand that the person is spending time and resources in teaching you how to do something. And if you have the results for it, then that's what you're paying for. If you're paying to jump to the end to see the end of the book, just wait for the movie to come out and watch it, there's that element. So, I'm just covering some of the comments that haven't been shared, but I'm just doing a general round thing to talk about the generalization. So I appreciate the course that you did. I guess the remote viewing. So is that level 2 or what level would that be?
Oh no,
that was a teaser.
Level 4. Level 4 is the psionic skills. Everything else is learning basics, development, meditation, psionic self-defense, field programming. Level 4 is when I'm actually teach the skills that we've done all the groundwork so that you can
So the one that I sat in on, I'm just trying to compare that. Is that part of that curriculum or is that something else? It was a demonstration for your course.
That was me crunching a bunch of information into a very short
4 hours
time, hoping that I was communicating it enough to the audience in the room so that they could replicate the technique that I wanted to teach them in that amount of time. I would say that's crushing some stuff together to try to teach people one skill.
Yeah. I'm gonna steal this comment here. So like Mike Gamble says, I have telekinesis, but I can't show anyone. LOL. No, I'm gonna take this one. Like and with Randy could appreciate this. He has military service. I have military service. I've learned how to kill people with my bare hands. I'm not going to show you how to do that. Do you believe me? So it really that's just another scenario kind of context. The only way to really find out is when it's too freaking late.
Well, let me answer it this way too, in a way which, again, I don't really give a shit what people think or understand about this, but it may make some sense for someone to understand it this way. People who don't have such abilities, when they are presented with someone who does, say, well, why don't you tell the whole world? Why don't you want to be on TV? And it's like, well, because that's dumb. That's asking for negative attention. That's not going to do me good as a teacher to teach my students or help me as a person really, other than attract myself to a fame position by doing essentially what I still consider a parlor trick. There's no way that I'm going to show anybody what a weaponized psionic ability looks like. You can just kiss my ass. So there's no reason I give a shit to show someone a parlor trick when there's no reason that I'm going to show somebody what a weaponized ability looks like. There's just no point.
Great power comes great responsibility, right? Like,
no reason that I have to show anybody anything. I use whatever I would need to use in a combat situation that I'm fully confident of my abilities to do. I teach my students the basics they need to do a basic training technique that if they practice that very, very tiny lightweight object in a near frictionless environment, they can go to a larger and larger object to greater and greater mass until they can teach it how to be sticky, how to lift it, how to move it, how to grab it. There's many stages and steps of teaching someone how to do that. And that's what I'm teaching my students how to do. And they're successfully doing that. I don't give a crap at what people see me do, and I certainly don't have an interest in letting people know what my skill level at these things are. Why? That's giving away like what I can do to someone. I would rather it be a surprise if they want to like sneak up on me in a dark alley and find out just what I can do.
Like I was just, it's just, whatever. I'm touching, and I appreciate, and I like the fact that that we're engaging like this too. I know it's tough. I've seen hecklers all over the place. You get it all over the place, but I know, but you do because of the way that you're reacting, and I understand that. What I'm doing is defending in the sense to expose that there's missing information. Not everyone has the full context. And what I'm trying to show is the human element. You are still a human being, correct? You do, so. Like, I mean, to be accused of these things, to be said all these things, there's trauma, there's PTSD, everything as an experiencer, which is why we created the Experiencer Support Association. To have like-minded individuals who understand the feelings associated with being told that they're not what they are, but I believe that doesn't matter. Now we have experiencers that are convinced or know that they've seen and made contact with extraterrestrials, or UFOs, ghosts, paranormal, all that other stuff. And to say the same thing, prove me credentials, prove to me that the alien exists, and then to be heckled and same, it's no different. It's no different. It's still this bias, this prejudice, this racism, I guess, within the whole the element of that. And there's less support when more support is needed. So whether or not these things exist in your life for real or not doesn't matter. But what you're doing is you're privately meeting with a bunch of individuals who may have an ability to do something that they can't explain or they don't understand, and you're encouraging them to develop that, to evolve, to grow, regardless of your credentials. You're taking your knowledge and experience and you're applying that, and that's where that fits. That's what matters. So if you're not teaching them how to use it for bad or how to use it for good, why teach them at all? What's the advantage of developing? Like, see, for me, if I were to take your course now with what you know about what I've evolved, if it's psionic, what advantage would I get from taking your course to enhance my ability, and why would I want to do that?
You would get the very specific step-by-step instruction on how to develop a daily practice which guarantees development if you put the time and energy in, using basic, simple, science-based fundamentals, stacking them on each other in such a way that, you start level 1 with very couple of concepts that really are super basic. Level 2, we're stacking concepts on top of that. Level 3, we're stacking concepts on top of that. Level 4, we're stacking discipline and skill building on top of that. So by the time you get through of that, your daily practice and routine is a complicated day of programming your brain, programming your energy fields, programming probability around you, teaching your own brain to strengthen its brain muscle, to bend matter and energy at greater and greater psionic outputs. That's the whole purpose of the curriculum, is how to get people onto a program that they are guiding day by day through themselves, with some guidance from me to just say, okay, here's how you start doing this. Here's how you start doing this. Do this every day. And, dedicate a time to this. And then after you've done this part for 4 weeks, add this on. Do that for another 4 weeks.
It's
Do
just like,
this for another 4 weeks. So that after 4 months, instead of trying to cram it into like a 4-day seminar, after 4 months, there's been integrative time for students to integrate these things into their patterns, into their brain rewiring, and into their development.
If you had a class of, say, 10 people start in level 1, how often do all 10 make it to level 4? Like, does their interest drop, or does everyone make it to the end? Because
there's an interest level drop, and most of it, to be honest, is people who complain that it's too basic and too easy. And I say, yeah, it's this is the level 1 class. It's supposed to be basic and easy.
Well,
you want to take the hard stuff. Yeah, exactly. You're doing
in
white
karate.
belts.
You do stances,
yeah,
back and forth in the dojo for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And then when you finally get into blocks and stuff, it's tough. First degree in Freemasonry is kind of like, well, it's not basic, but it's still comparison to the other.
Let me put it this way: of the students that make it to the level 2 class, I have a high retention rate from students that go from level 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. The drop off is from students who come into a level 1 and go, this is too easy. This isn't what I expected. And then they just don't move on to the next level because they think that I'm just offering something that's super, super basic and simple, and that all 4 levels are going to be like that, which they're not. Ask my students, they tell you, that it gets complicated by level 3, and that by level 4, they've been putting enough time and energy to it that they can actually replicate the techniques that I'm freaking teaching them, which is what matters. And not that I'm teaching you all this stuff. Now I'm totally taking no responsibility. You go practice it, and I don't care what happens. This way, I'm engaging with my students to say, I want you to achieve success at this. So by us being here every week, for you asking questions on what your obstacles are, and me answering questions on what I would suggest you do to get around those obstacles, the students are getting really, really great personal development, because it's a slow and steady wins the race, integrative process that builds and builds over time, so that by the time they get through the level 4 stuff and they've been doing it for 4 or 5 months, it's not that hard. They realize, oh, this isn't that hard. And it's like, yeah, it's not that hard once you've done all the groundwork. So this is really about establishing the groundwork so that when you teach someone an advanced technique, they can pull it off.
And you can really put your yourself into it more at the higher levels. So like if somebody's just joining, like I'll say for Masonry, for an example, the first degree is quite informative, but you don't really learn any of the theological teachings until the second or actually really the third, because some people might just be popping in to see what it's all about. So they're just kind of testing the water. So by the time you get to the third degree or the third level or the fourth level, we'll just say more time is spent because the teachers or the people involved with it, who are used to that overturned employee kind of type scenario. It's the same if you hire somebody and then they don't last probation. You're not going to give them a raise or give them any of these things until they stick around. So you as the teacher, that kind of helps. That I like that curriculum. I like that style, because by the time you get to these levels, you know these people mean business, and you can turn it up a little bit. When I get higher belts in karate, it doesn't get easier. It gets harder. It's like, you just got a new belt. Great. I'm going to hit you 10% harder now. Congratulations.
I'm very proud. My level 3 and level 4 students are very dedicated. They really want to be there. They're really putting the time and energy in, and they're gaining incredible benefits from it. They're doing really well and making fabulous progress. I'm a really proud teacher of my students right now. They're doing
I'm happy for that. We're getting close to the end. Do you have time to stick around after that?
I think I've had a long day, and I think I'm going to have to call it about done here. So
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I just noticed the
Tired.
comments and questions and things like that too. So we'll wrap it up. I see you guys have a lot of questions, a lot of comments in here. Chantel, if you want to throw some questions up that are at your choosing, and we'll get into questions before Randy leaves, and then and thank you so much for
My
being here.
pleasure.
Thank you for
Thanks for
everything
having
that
me.
you're doing. The one thing I kind of wanted to say too is from the investigator. So you know what I do. You know how we work. You know what I did for MUFON and things like that too. And with the plan, if I discover that there are people within our circles that may have the ability to develop or have psychogenic or psionic abilities like myself and others, would you be able to determine whether or not my hypothesis is correct or wrong? Meaning, without putting them through the program, like, would you be able to identify markers like you did with me,
Yeah.
to
Oh
help me
yeah.
with my research, to be like,
Yeah.
okay, you know
It's
what, you're
physics.
right,
Yeah.
and then from
It's
there,
physics. Yeah.
yeah,
It's physics.
then
There's
from
textbook
there,
stuff. Yeah.
right, we could refer
For
them
sure.
to you to enhance their learning.
Yeah.
So there's
Absolutely.
definitely something in the works for that. So
Yeah. No,
that
I
is
love the
something that,
idea of helping
yeah.
out and being a part of the program. So I love it.
And I like that too. And for those of you who are hating Randy for all the wrong reasons, understand that if we do partner up, which is something we're talking about in the future, it's for the betterment of the people and the change for the future. And as long as the results are there, it doesn't matter what credentials this guy has. If he can lead the horse to telekinesis, if he can teach me to bend a freaking spoon, I'm in.
Well,
You know,
let me tell you what I'm pretty excited about. I'm pretty excited watching my students develop, and in 6 months, 12 months, we'll do a whole video of my students doing the techniques. I don't need
perfect.
anyone to see me doing it. You can see my students do it from what I've taught them.
Well, with what I got going on too,
Believe
a
me.
lot of our experiencers are feeling comfortable coming forward too, so we can maybe we can work together and having something like that. And that might.
Uh-oh.
Somebody didn't like that. I don't know what happened, but that would reinforce some of these naysayers here. But okay, so Chantel, you keep putting up that one question. Where was it? Sean Cash. Randy, can you speak about the general state of leadership within the programs right now? Bored and chaos? Are there chances that negative elements will throw a wrench into disclosure plans?
I seriously doubt it. I would say that the larger scale plans are like a train out of control. There's nobody that's going to stop it. There's nobody that's going to derail it. There's nobody that's going to change the course of this train at this point. It is headed where it's going, and it's going to get there because there is way too much weight and momentum behind that train.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any other questions there, Chantel?
It's my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, like, I mean, for me, disclosure with what's happening in the United States, I think the whole, and of course you might know more than I do, but I mean, there's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of unregulated stuff. This new change that I see, I don't see this. I talked about this morning in my lunchtime video. Is I don't see this as covering up. It could be a cover up to a cover up, but I don't really see it as harmful. I see it as acknowledging that we've been free to discord and have all this information at will without any regulation, without any teaching. So this is kind of maybe an attempt to maybe put a halt to it for now, so that way they can take the good or put more of the good out there with the bad, through the bad, however they want to do that. Whether or not you can trust the government, that's debatable all around. That's why we have different sides of parties depending on who you vote for.
Government's not a single entity that is a single group of people with a single mind. So there's no such thing as, do you trust government or do you not trust government? There are certain things, elements, personnel within governments that are more or less trustworthy. It's always a gray area. There's no such thing as like you can trust, you can't trust. This doesn't work that way.
Also other things going on in the world. BC's underwater right now, like here in Canada. Like, I mean, like that's kind of more important than aliens, unless the aliens can save us. The pandemic, whether or not that's part of all this, there's other things. So I mean, so for me, I like this. I think it's going to happen. It's just not going to. It may not happen tomorrow. It may happen in 6 months, like you say, the start of phase 3. And then after the war, however long that lasts, like, I mean, 22, we're all, kind of on a clockwork, with the last war, it was 2014 or 1919, I think, right? World War One.
Yeah. I mean, the war clock is, ready to go again, I'm sure. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, kids. I think we'll end the show here a little bit early. Randy is tired, and he did hop in. It is Thanksgiving for him as well, so I do appreciate that. Randy will be back. We're now in contact. We're always chatting.
I'll definitely come back. I'll definitely come back and answer more questions. I normally like to sit and just answer questions until I can't talk anymore, but I'm just.
You got that turkey. You got that turkey glow on you.
I did. Full turkey dinner. It was.
So no, it looks like it's all good. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you going through the gambit. I understand there's a lot of questions and comments that I didn't get into, but I'm glad that we were able to balance that. This is the end. This is the end of season 3, by the way, guys. So no more podcasts for the year, but next Thursday, on December 2nd, is Tim's birthday, Tim Medema Guy's birthday, but we're going to do a very special show on another podcast, which I'm hoping for. If it doesn't happen, we'll be here. I will let you know. But also December 9th, the following day after that, is our first annual Experience Your Day, where we're going to have a full day of events or videos and things like that. And it's going to be a great day. So we'll tune in. We'll see you guys later. Randy, if you want to chat with me after the outro, I'll be here, and we'll go from there. But thanks for watching, everybody. Keep your eyes in the sky. Feed the world. Peace.
This is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, where together, my friends, we own the night. On our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a place called the SOR Sightlines Report. All of our investigations and people who inquire are turned over to TESSA, the Experiencer Support Association. Ryan Stacy and his crew, what I like about them, they're independent. They're not working for anybody, and they want answers. We want answers for our listeners and people who inquire as well about their experiences. It's a great tandem, and we love being teamed up with TESSA. If you haven't heard of us before, that's okay. We'd love to earn your listening ears. Join us 9:06 Pacific Time, 12:06 a.m. Eastern for 3 hours of live entertainment, 7 days a week.
Please stand by for further details. We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
Hello, new YouTube member. Guess what? You've just unlocked bonus content that no one else has seen before, and you get exclusive access to some neat features. If you join the Experiencers Anonymous tier, you've unlocked loyalty badges which will appear next to your name when you join us live during any of our videos. The longer you stay with us, the cooler the badge will be. Also, you get to use these cool custom emojis that we made just for you. You also get to access our private Discord chat where we can communicate all the time privately. All you have to do is email us at admin@tessacan.org. Let us know you want in on the discussion and we will send you the link directly to Discord. This tier also unlocks early access to new videos, behind the scenes and blooper footage, as well as some exclusive videos made just for members. All that for $2.99 Canadian a month. If you join the unclassified tier for $4.99 Canadian, you would get everything I just said, plus extended footage of some of our featured videos, a discount to our merch store, and so much more. If you are a member of the unclassified tier, email us at admin@tessacan.org and let us know, and we will send you a discount code for the Paranormal Hangar. All proceeds go back into the mission and help us create educational content for you and the rest of the world. Thank you for being a part of that journey. There are lots of perks, so make sure you check that out. Also, you can use this tab to share and communicate with Tessa. That's it. Unless you have a better idea. If you do, email us at admin@tessacan.org if you have any requests for videos or bonus perks or anything at all. Really, you are in charge. Don't be afraid to reach out. Thanks for your support, and if you know anyone else who may benefit, please share our channel. The more people we have, the more we can help. And thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky. Say it with me. Say it, Tim.
Eat the world.
Eat the world. I'm still here. I guess Randy had to go, but I was just trying to comment to you guys in the chat. I tried to figure it out. I don't have the answers, so I can't defend anything. I don't know. I don't have any facts here. So anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. This is the end of season 3, and we will see you again for the next guest part in season 4 in 2022. I appreciate the chatter and the comments and you guys defending each other back and forth, but I hope I nailed the point where some of this stuff doesn't really matter. In terms of the money and stuff like that you're mentioning there, Stephen. I mean, like that's a question that Randy would have to answer. I can't answer that for you as a host. So that is something that unfortunately he's going to have to attest to. But just want you guys to know that this podcast is a place for a safe place. So this isn't necessarily the place for those types of questions to be asked here, because I don't want to create a hostile environment. At the same time, I respect and I acknowledge your line of questioning, but I don't have facts and evidence right in front of me in order to defend that. So in the future, keep that in mind, that this is opinion, that people do have facts and supporting evidence and things like that. I don't have time to look at that in the middle of this, especially as a host. We do have fraud reporting. If you have evidence and things like that you want to do that's all there. But I do want to point out that if he, this credential part is a tough thing. This money thing, a lot of people do it for many reasons, for different things, but don't get mad at the people for collecting the money. Get mad at the people that gave the money. And if Randy may have messaged these people back, we don't know what's going on. We're missing information here. The moral of this story is that we need more love. We need more trust. Some people aren't perfect. Some people aren't, they're human too. Randy is an experiencer, and regardless of however that pans out, that's the role that I had to play today, because, I have to put on that hat. So anyways, thank you so much, everybody. I do understand the hostility here, and I love the comments, and that's why I'm sticking around here to kind of emphasize on that. But I mean, this is all opinionated. This is all evidence. This video itself could be used as testimony, if and things like that. and with what you're saying, like I can look into that, of course, to validate whether or not the claims are true. All those things are important. It's just not in a podcast. I can't do that right now. So if there's evidence to review, of course, I'll help explain in different ways.